Well, today I'm with my friend Anita Modi, and she's the CEO and co-founder of Peer.ai. And the Peer.ai solution provides specialized AI agents combined with precise human in-the-loop control points to create accurate, high-quality regulatory documents up to 94% faster. So, Anita, super great to have you today.
Yeah, Walter, thanks for having me. Excited to share more.
And congratulations on your funding, by the way.
I appreciate that. We're excited to keep investing in this space. It's been a fascinating couple years building.
Well, first, I'd like to learn a little bit more about the problem that you're addressing with Peer.ai.
Building.
Well, first, I'd like to learn a little bit more about the problem that you're addressing with Peer.ai.
Yeah, so by way of background, I've spent my whole career really building technology in this industry. Before I started Peer, I served as the chief quality officer at a company called Science 37 and working with biotech and pharma companies to run clinical trials, just saw so much of the inner workings of drug development, especially kind of on the quality side as well. So people may not know this, but for a new drug that goes through kind of the drug development process and all the way to commercialization, that entire path is actually gated by regulatory documents, decisions to continue moving along the clinical trials process are made by regulatory bodies like the FDA or EMEA based on these documents. So over a lifetime of a drug, new drugs actually require 100 to 200,000 pages of documentation across over 1,500 unique documents itself. And all of this today is done manually. Under immense time pressure, not to mention with very complicated data. And so it's actually a critical bottleneck that can delay these very life-changing treatments from getting to patients. If you actually look into the data, so nearly a third of FDA submissions have quality issues. Almost 75% of new drug applications face rejections. And on average, these delays are 435 days. So
Wow.
each of those days, imagine if you're a patient who needs this sort of treatment, those each day matters. And so today, that's really the process that hasn't changed in decades around how much of this documentation is really compiled for the purpose of bringing a drug to market.
You said our goal here is to get the drugs to market faster, and the AI is definitely making that happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're in this moment of transformation, right? AI brings this entirely new paradigm of technology and kind of method of bringing like a different level of intelligence to how this work is done. The way you can sort of treat data, analyze data differently, and support kind of these workflows totally changes when you're talking about kind of agents and purpose-built agents really made for this problem space as well. And that's what we've been doing here at Peer. We've built this agentic AI platform, starting with these use cases of documentation that can take really complex data sets, very customer specific templates and style guides, and use those to start drafting much of this documentation and really bring down much of those timelines. Um, yeah, it's also incredible because you learn, and so it's not just that you're spitting out something quickly, you're actually spitting out something that is of incredibly high quality, can follow regulatory guidelines that
Mhm.
exist, can follow patterns your company has used before, and kind of use all of that intelligence to help craft how these documents are put together. And our view is, documentation is sort of this initial step that continues to build on this data and support ultimately many of these like intelligent decisions that are made along these regulatory workflows.
Can you talk a little bit about the human in the loop aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of discussion with AI about human in the loop. And our view here at Peer is that it's really important to think about when a human is in the loop and how a human is in the loop. We call them control points. And
Mhm.
this idea that you need this sort of loop to exist between AI automation and human verification, where humans come in to validate, verify, course correct, and sort of guide AI. For lack of a better phrase, when you're talking especially about regulatory documentation, it's something so nuanced and complex. You have to keep AI on this short leash. And so And so that's sort of how our product is really set up. You leverage agents throughout the workflow. We have different agents that, process and ingest data. We have agents that do mapping of data, agents that author different types of content from graphs and figures and prose. But along every step of that, there is sort of a human control point. Humans review how the data is ingested. Humans review that mapping, especially if there's any changes they want to make. We give tools to make it really easy to edit or revise text. We have agents that QC, but also ways for humans to do some of that quality checking, AI-powered commenting, in addition to human. Our view is that, especially when you deal with something so complex like regulatory documentation, you need that subject matter expertise to go hand in hand with AI. Not only Yeah, I think for me, the document specific agents have been some of the really powerful work that we've kind of unlocked. And so these agents, I'll take one, a clinical study report, CSR agent. So these reports essentially summarize what happened in the context of a clinical trial. And they require, the statistical analysis plan, lots of, hundreds and thousands of pages of data of what actually happened in the clinical trial, the protocol, style guide. But these agents understand the context of what makes a good CSR. We've essentially trained it on that knowledge, so it can contextualize the different data and actually map the data to the document using kind of its own experience, using the data itself to drive how that document is set up. And so that's an entirely novel way of thinking about how you put these documents together to understand what good is and iterate on that in a flexible way that's not prescriptive, but is really outcomes focused instead of being sort of process focused. And we've taken that approach now with the whole range of documents, right? Across preclinical, along the CMC and manufacturing side, along clinical from, protocols on how you write these trials or informed consent of how you explain these trials to patients, all the way to kind of some of the summarization and submission documents as well. But that technical pattern has worked really well for us with the rest of kind of our agent team that's at play.
Would you like to talk about a client success story?
Yeah, I could talk to many of them. Maybe I'll start high level and then dig into a couple. What's been exciting is that we've measured kind of success in a couple different dimensions. Obviously, when you're using AI, one aspect is speed. How quickly can I put together these documents, given that every day matters? We've seen everything from reducing the time spent on these documents from 55% for something really complex, like a phase 3 clinical study report, all the way to, like you said, 94% for something like safety narratives, which summarize safety issues that happened in trials. And there's often multiple of them, so you get this compounding value. What's amazing What's amazing though is that's happened without sacrificing quality. So one of the things that we did early on was essentially survey medical writers and regulatory experts to say what makes a document good? How do you know that it's good? And we essentially developed this framework that looks at things like data accuracy, consistency throughout these very lengthy documents, completeness, do you have everything in there that you should, readability, how easy is it to just understand the story, adherence to templates or style guide and guidelines as well. And we actually had customers grade us and said, you grade us on kind of the output of what this quality looks like, and then let's compare it to kind of traditional workflows. And across the board, we've seen that we've either maintained sort of those traditional workflow metrics or exceeded, especially when you're looking things at like data accuracy or readability as well. And so I think that's been really exciting. One of the case studies I just presented a couple weeks ago with one of our customers, a top 20 pharma company, is that we're now in our life cycle far enough where we can start to measure document over document compounding value. So in
Hmm.
this example, we showed, okay, the first clinical study report we wrote, the second, the third, now I think we're on our fifth or sixth. We've showed that we've actually continued to reduce time. So they're kind of sub 5 days, which is incredible. But what's really exciting is that the quality has also improved with every document. And I think that goes And I think that goes back to sort of this approach of using agents where our agents learn from that customer feedback, right? Everything that's expressed in the platform in terms of preference, things that aren't in, the source documents you're using to writing, but sort of come in later, we learn from and start to build in for kind of the next document as well. And so I think that's kind of for me the big promise of AI, that it's not just a one-shot automation, but sort of this engine that continues to learn over time as well.
How are regulatory bodies in the biotech space approaching AI?
Yeah, it's actually been incredibly encouraging to see how the FDA, EMEA has been sort of treating AI in the last year or 2 years. There is such encouragement of use of AI. So ELSA, the FDA's internal tool, is actually now supporting their own reviews. They very quickly moved from pilot to over 70% of their agency voluntarily using AI. Today, they actually announced that they're using agentic AI and have a whole series of use cases where they're using agents in conjunction with humans as well. So very similar technical approach to what we're doing as well. And
Can you explain the benefit of having the expertise that you have on staff?
But for us, these agents that are so purpose-built come from working deep with experts who have decades of experience writing every single one of these documents I mentioned, protocols, CSRs, NDAs. And a lot of what we've done in sort of building these agents is essentially captured so much of that logic.
So you mentioned some very large biotech or pharma companies as clients. Who's an ideal prospect for you?
So for me, ideal customer is less about kind of stage of company. We've worked with companies along the spectrum. I really think it has to do a bit with culture and kind of interest and appetite around AI. Where we've seen the most success is companies that are committed to working through kind of bringing in AI in the right way. That means they have sort of top-down support to do this and invest in it, but they also have kind of bottoms-up support and interest in trying it, demystifying it, and kind of putting in the right sort of procedures and kind of organizational design around it. So I think a lot of it actually has to do with company culture and company organization as like we are all on this frontier of how to work across industries with AI today. And I think there has to be this recognition that for us at least every contract that we sign is a partnership because we're working together, learning from each other and sort of building for this future together. The way we bring that to the table is we flag where AI is really good at things and where it's not good at things. And I think a lot of that mentality of can you work together in sort of this trusting, transparent way is actually equally critical to kind of stage of company.
So how would you
Stage of company.
so how would you like people to engage if they want to learn more? How would you like them to engage?
Yeah, visit our website, www.getpeer.ai. Read more, sign up for a demo, reach out to me, Anita Modi, also on LinkedIn. We're pretty active there, so you can see some of our kind of perspective and pieces that we've written about the space as well.
Well, Anita, this has been really enlightening to learn about your solution at Peer AI, and I look forward to watching your success and growth and staying in touch.
Yeah, this is great.